What's going on, guys? This is Mambo back here, the Blue Curry Bandit, bringing you a top 4 match from the official Histlander Discord servers monthly tournament for the month of February. Today, we're going to have Meds for Feds versus Pia, and we are, like I said, in top 4. So these guys are going to be playing for the Grand Championship here. We're going to have Meds for Feds starting out with a Machina gear frame. So they're going to be on Earth Machine. Now, we've seen this deck a few times before, and as we talked about before, it's a big toolbox. Almost every single card in the deck has some sort of search effect or some sort of special summon effect. As we're going to see, gear frame add the Aerator. Aerator is going to discard the Machina Fortress, and now the Aerator, of course, is going to allow them to search out the deck by targeting a Earth Machine or a Machina monster they control, destroying it, and then special summoning a monster with the same or lower level. So we're going to pass that back to Pia, and they're going to be on Salamangreat, which not quite the Salamangreat you might expect from the normal format. This is going to be more of a Cyber's good stuff. Now, what specifically makes this a Salamangreat deck is the use of Falco to bounce around the spell and trap cards and try to control the game and gain advantage that way. And we all know how good that card is. They're going to lead with Salamangreat Circle here in the main phase 1. We'll see what this adds. Now, like most Rota spells, you can definitely tell a lot based on what they add. And they're going to go for Foxy, so it's likely that they already have Gazelle in hand. So Foxy is going to get normal summon. They're going to use the Pot of Duality effect and reveal the top 3. Looking to find any Salamangreat card, just for the free advantage. Now, they're going to chain Fall on Chainlink 2, so there is an extender there as well. And Balancer Lord, Sea Archiver, and Math Mech, I believe that was Sigma. So this already puts them in quite a good spot, assuming that they do already have Gazelle in hand. That's going to give them a very powerful opening board here. And as you could see from the Sea Archiver, the Balancer Lord, and the Math Mech cards, Cyber's, much like the Earth Machine deck in and of itself, a lot of very good generic cards that are able to extend and go into the extra deck. Now, the extra deck is rather nerfed in Histlander. You don't have things like Access Code Talker, Transcode Talker are all banned. So they are with a bit fewer options. We're going to see the Math Mech Subtraction come out, targeting the gear frame. And that'll be overlaid along with the Foul to go into Alimbertion, which will search a Math Mech card, Spell and Trap card, and that's going to see what they go for here. It's going to go for Induction. Okay, so they're going to look to sort of go for the tempo play here. They're going to, like Salamangreat is very good at, being sort of the quintessential mid-range deck where they aim to more or less grind out resources consistently and then just aim to get ahead of their opponent and then stay ahead. That is what we're looking at here. And it is Salamangreat Gazelle as the follow goes to Graveyard after being detached from the Alimbertion. So we'll see what they go for here. Now, they won't have the ability to go into Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, or like reincarnation summon it, that is, as they do not have access to a second copy, because of course this is Histlander, mixed between Highlander and Historical, so they are only allowed one copy of every card in the deck. Gazelle is going to go ahead and send Jack Jaguar, so that is going to give them another extender. And speaking of extenders, they have Backup Secretary, so just a free special summon since they control a Cyber's monster. So this was a very, very strong opener. Almost every power card that you could ask for from the Salamangreat deck. Now, they don't have access to a whole lot, but they do have access to Mirage Stallion, which they're going to summon here. So again, we're going to see even more extending here as they're going to detach the Foxy. Now, the Foxy has used its effect, so they aren't going to be able to special summon it if they were to, say, add Sanctuary or something else similar. Stallion also quite powerful since it does present a threat in terms of removal if it is linked away. They're going to summon the Falco here. Falco is definitely the key piece to the Salamangreat deck, because they're going to link that away into Balinks. Falco's effect will trigger, and they don't, I believe, Salamangreat, they don't play Sanctuary, as you can see there, as, like I said, you aren't allowed to play multiple copies of any card, so it's not a particularly useful card, but they are going to get back Circle, and now they're going to link away into the Sunlight Wolf. So that'll load them up for next turn, give them an opportunity to continue to go through their deck. And to be honest, I've definitely seen the second effect come up a few times, but unlikely that we'll see it here. Jack Jaguar is going to trigger. They're going to target the Salamangreat Foul. And at this point, you can see where the strength of the Salamangreat deck and essentially the Cyber's engine in and of itself really shines. having so many generic cards they can access, and then being able to recur a lot of those resources as they grab back the Gazelle and will load up for next turn. And now they can simply go to battle phase. They don't have anything to out the Air Raider, but at the same time, they're going to swing over the Machina gear frame with the Mirage Stallion for 1,200, and that puts them at a massive advantage in terms of cards. With more on the way, if you count the Salamangreat Circle. We're going to get one more card set in main phase 2. And likely that will end the turn. And it will. So the Air Raider does still have the opportunity to go off here. And actually we're going to see a Twin Twisters discarding Cosmic Cyclone. So discarding for an upgraded version here. That's going to take out the Circle and the Set card, which was the Math Mech Induction we saw them add earlier in the combo. Now the Air Raider effect will go off, targeting itself. So that will allow them to summon a level 8. From the deck. That will give them Mega Form, as we know the Fortress is in graveyard as is. So it's a bit of a mountain to climb for our Earth Machine player, but they absolutely have the ability to do it here. A lot of explosiveness from this deck, and of course there is Machina Citadel, which would be a massive swing in this particular game. Now, what's difficult here is you're staring down this board, but what makes it worse is this board is also particularly sticky thanks to the Salamangreat Banelinks. Even if you are able to summon another monster, more or less you're really going to only be able to out one particular threat. And obviously the Mirage Stallion is presenting an enormous amount of threat right now if it were to live until the next turn. Alright, going to use the Megaform effect here. Another tutor ability. The real question is what will be their follow-up here on the turn, because they absolutely... It's a very critical turn, because as we mentioned earlier, Salamangreat being the deck that it is, it really aims, once it's ahead like this, it can be an absolute monster to try and crawl your way back. But they're going to get the Mega Form. They're going to use that effect to get the Metal Cruncher. Metal Cruncher will get to, similar to Foxy, is going to reveal 3 cards from the deck chosen by our Earth Machine player. And one of them will be randomly selected and added to their hand. The other 2 will be shuffled back. This will guarantee them hopefully something that can get them somewhere. Fortunately, we won't be able to see exactly what cards they reveal from the spectators booth up here. But surely any target that they went for will be good. Harvester is in fact quite good. So they're going to normal summon the Harvester. Harvester will get to add an Infinite Track monster. They can go for Brutal Dozer. Now Brutal Dozer will get to activate. That's going to tribute the Harvester, and then Brutal Dozer's effect will trigger on Special Summon. That will Special Summon in Infinite Track deck. They're going to go for Anchor Drill. As they already have the Trencher in hand. So Trencher will come out, and this will now give them access to River Stormer, which is, generally speaking, the go-to target here. Especially the rank 5 pool is not particularly heavy in the particular years that the Earth Machine deck exists. So they're going to use the River Stormer effect. That will allow them to either... Well, it will allow them to take an Earth Machine and either add it to the hand or send it to graveyard as we reconnect here. And this does at least give them 2 bodies that'll be capable of dealing with the Mirage Stallion, and they are going to send the Machina Citadel to graveyard. Immensely powerful card in this particular format, so they're going to look to hopefully use that to equalize the game state here. Now at this point, there probably is not much follow-up here, so like we mentioned, they are really only going to be able to out one threat here, and they are going to go to battle phase. I imagine you want to take out the Mirage Stallion here. Yeah, seems like the correct thing to do. I'm going to get in for 800 with the Metal Cruncher. Taking their time to think about it a little bit, though. The Banelinks there comes in handy. The Link one that searches the field spell and gives you protection. Now, River Stormer will destroy the Mirage Stallion by battle, which will allow the second effect of the River Stormer to trigger, which will attach the Mirage Stallion as an Xyz material. Main phase 2, we still have one card left in hand. We don't have any particular knowledge on what that is. That has been there since turn 1, and it does not appear to be useful in this situation, as we're going to go back to the Salamangreat player. Now, they still have Gazelle in hand, so they still have quite a decent amount of options available to them. Falco is in the graveyard, and somewhere in the deck still lies Spinny, so they still have quite a few options to try and get over this board. But, of course, like we mentioned, most of the truly powerful finishers in this format are banned. So Crusadia Mech Knight Avermax is not an option, Access Code is not an option, Boral Sword is not an option, and Call by the Grave is going to go down onto the Machina Citadel. That is probably the most common play in all of Histlander. I don't think I've ever seen a play happen as often as just Called by the Grave on the Machina Citadel, and as you can see there, my one weakness. It is a very, very unfortunate happening for any Earth Machine player when your Citadel ends up in the banish zone. Now, there is a way to get it back. You do have the option of getting it back with Machina Overdrive's Graveyard Effect, but unlike we saw in our top 8 match from yesterday, they do not currently have Overdrive available. So now we're going to see the Falco trigger that is going to send Jack Jaguar back to hand. That Falco will summon underneath the Sunlight Wolf as it bounces for cost, and that will allow Sunlight Wolf to add one more resource. I believe the only legal target is Foxy, as Follow was shuffled back last turn. There we are. So this is quite a good position. Now, the Jack Jaguar in hand is not particularly amazing, but definitely usable. Alright, so it is going to be the Jack Jaguar coming out, though. Of course, naturally, that will give them more extenders as we go on. Definitely better than the Foxy in this case, as you don't have anything like a field spell or any continuous spell at all that you can work with here to get the Foxy back. And yeah, the real question here is, what can they go into to sort of beat over the threshold? That, you know, it's pretty good. We're going to go into Borreload. Now, Borreload is definitely sort of the go-to boss here. And naturally, as many Salamangreat cards were linked away, that is going to give them the Salamangreat Gazelle and allows them to mill one more card from their deck. Now, the Falco effect to put itself on board has already been used, so sending anything like a Rage right now would not yield much, as they can only use one of the Falco effects per turn. Now, Spinny here would give another extender. Instead, they're going to go for Mole. So Mole is very similar to, I believe, Zodiac Combo, where it allows you the ability to banish it from graveyard and then to shuffle back 5 Salamangreat cards and then draw a few. So they're going to go to battle phase. Borreload is going to bump down the River Stormer. They're going to use Borreload's effect to take the Machina Metal Cruncher. That will out the River Stormer and allow them to poke in for some damage. Now we're going to set one more card, and now our Earth Machine player is on Destiny draw mode looking for something crazy. It's quite difficult here, because not only are you currently behind significantly, but the amount of resources that they have for next turn, even if the board was outed, because if you clear the board, that will turn on the Salamangreat Mole, which, as we just said, will allow them to essentially Pot of Avarice, which would get them back things like Mirage Stalio. They still have Falco. If Falco goes to their graveyard, that'll give them Circle. So it's a bit of a tough scenario. Now, they do have a little bit going on here, though, as they're going to use the Trencher. That's going to bring out Drill, and they're going to bring out the Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede, and that, on Special Summon, is also going to Special Summon a machine monster from the graveyard. An Anchor Drill has the effect to target a monster. They can take the combined levels, so add them together, whatever it targets, and both monsters will become that level, so that will open up the way for a bunch of very powerful Xyz plays. And, of course, Pegasus has a similar effect where you target a monster and the level becomes either 4, like Pegasus's, or the target's level. So they have a decent amount of options here, as they're going to go for the Brutal Dozer. So pretty much anywhere access between a level 4 Xyz or a rank 4 Xyz or a rank 9 or a rank 5. They're going to use Anchor Drill on the Brutodozer, so they're looking for a rank 9, which I believe would make Earth Slicer. Enter Blathnir, actually. Okay, so Enter Blathnir is a very powerful card. 4 different effects. Now they're going to trigger this. Now, if they declare, and they did, so they declared the effect to banish a card the opponent controls. This does not target, so this does out the Borolo Dragon. Okay, smartly they're going to chain the Borolo Dragon's effect to bump the Enter Blathnir down by 500. On resolution, that will out the Borolo Dragon. Not great, though, as they still cannot deal with the Metal Cruncher, and that is going to mostly spell doom. Or rather, the Metal Cruncher will go to Graveyard here during the end phase, so perhaps this will work out. Still have to deal with Falco, still have to deal with that looping some resources here. And again, if you are able to clear the board, you then have to deal with the mole being able to sort of start them from scratch. But a good show of sort of the resilience of this Earth Machine deck, being able to basically pull plays out of nowhere, so managing to take what was definitely a lost position and at least putting up a pretty good fight here. So they are going to attack into the Gazelle. They'll take 900, and we've seen this card in hand has been dead since turn 1. We'll see. It's unlikely that anything has changed, but we'll see if it potentially finds a use now. Not looking too good. There we go. So the Metal Cruncher will go to the graveyard on the resolution of Borolo's effect. But the Salamangreat player firmly in control here, assuming that they can find an out to this 2400 Enter Blathnir. Definitely a card they do not want to let survive until next turn, that's for sure. Going to start with the Foxy that they had from last turn. That is going to do the same thing he did last time. It's going to reveal 3, and they hit Foul. Feeling DD Crow, Foul, and Debug. So Foul is going to come out here. And there is a Jack Jaguar in graveyard as well. So surely we'll find something here. Going to go into Almirage. That'll bring out Foul. Now Jack Jaguar will trigger. That's going to... Let's see what their target is here. It's a good position here because you are able to shuffle back an extra deck monster. Naturally, you really aren't going to be able to go into Mirage Talio. But they're going to send back the Sunlight Wolf. And, that card's pretty good. They're going to go Raigeki for game here, as that will open up the board, and that will send them to battle phase. 1200 from the Falco, and more than enough for lethal between the Foul and the Jack Jaguar. So a good showing from the Salamangreat deck, and exactly how it is able to push advantage and keep that advantage. Alright, we're back with Game 2 from our top 4 match for the official Histlander Discord server's monthly tournament for the month of February. Last game we saw Earth Machine get thoroughly, let's say, dominated by the Salamangreat player, so that will put P up 1-0 here as we go to Classic. And Meds for Feds is going to start out with a strong set 2 into Card D. Now, man, I got a lot of memories with Card D that I won't bore you with, but that card is very cool. We'll just say that. So Meds for Feds is going to be on Madolche, and Pia is going to be up on a fairly well-known deck, just simply a GOAT format. So it's essentially going to be good stuff from about the early 2004-2005 era. And a very typical GOAT format play, set 1 pass. Now, Card D, going first in particular, is quite strong. Also, top-decking Madolche as the 8th card, very powerful. So Madolche is going to get the engine rolling here. Now, the most important thing to note is that the card here to keep an eye on is Madolche Hootcake. Hootcake is essentially the card that's going to get the engine rolling. The reason why Madolche finds such success in this format is its ability to loop the resources through things like Ticket and Chateau, meaning they will pretty much never ever run out of cards. It's actually almost the exact opposite of the GOAT format deck, which relies on a lot of the very old, very powerful cards that were available in the time to try and just sort of blow out the opponent and set up advantageous game states that way. We are going to see a little bit of a think here, though, so potentially the Hoot Cake is already there. Of course, Mew Flea is also a good option here, as it will combos nice with the Hoot Cake, but we are going to see the Hoot Cake. And with the card D in the graveyard, that is an extremely looming threat. So if that Hoot Cake does hit the board, is able to get that card D, that's going to get the Messer Gelato, and that is essentially going to set up the endless loop. Now, Imagine is going to swing into what is a Sinister Serpent, so of course that card is going to infinitely be able to come back to the hand, so nothing lost there. But a nice, good, steady opener here from our Madolche player to... They've set up everything they need, which obviously can be quite difficult in the Highlander format, so... much like we saw Pia do last game with Salamangreat. And I think it also goes without saying that Madolche Queen Tiramisu is just a absolutely monstrous card, just in any format. Bar none, I mean, just based on what the card text says, one of the most powerful cards ever printed. Oh, and they already have Ticket here, so this is an extremely strong start. The big thing here is that you can't really do much. Like, you can't really gain advantage, because anytime you are actually able to out any of the Madolche cards, they're going to keep advantage, if not gain advantage. So Sinister Serpent's going to be met by DD Crow, so things just get worse. What does Hoot Cake do? So Heavy Storm, as we saw here from the chat, that would help. My Heavy Storm would absolutely be able to equalize the game state. That would be one of the bombs we were talking about earlier. That would really blow open the game state and give the GOAT format deck a good shot here. Hoot Cake doing everything is... that's probably about the best summary we can say here. Honestly, that was a much shorter, much more eloquent way to put it than I did. Learning on the fly, our GOAT player is going to soak in as much information as they can from this conversation and try to turn that into valuable knowledge that they can use to win this game. Now, the Sinister Serpent, it's tough. You would really like to have that back, because that does turn on a handful of useful cards, Metamorphosis, Tribe Infecting Virus, but... And also, it's just kind of that whole notion of it just being a free card. Like, kind of that risk-free, you set the card, you're not really expecting anything of it. You're like, okay, yeah, I'll just get my Serpent back. I'll have a good time. And not so much this time. Okay, so we're going to see Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. So this one... It's actually quite good, now I think about it. That would turn off the Hoot Cake, but unfortunately Kaiku's going to get a taste of its own medicine from the Bottomless Trap Hole. We didn't see them set any Spell and Trap cards turn 1, so I imagine this game's just over. They're going to set the card that they drew. Kaiku would have been a huge game changer, as also... Actually, man, how does Kaiku work? Damage step, I believe, so it banishes before the monster hits graveyard, if I remember correctly. Meh, not quite as crazy, but still would have been quite good. Alright, we're actually going to see Tour Guide to the Underworld here, so this is another scenario where we're just going to play it safe. We already have a pretty significant advantage, so we don't... So our Madolche player doesn't really feel the need to just go ahead and commit to their strongest play, and, you know, they already do have a backup plan in the Madolche ticket. And, of course, they now also have Ghost Trick Alucard, which is going to be able to get rid of the Mirror Force. That is... Oof, man, that's tough. It's always fun to see some of these old cards. I remember Ghost Trick Alucard being just a staple card back in the day, but now, of course, not so much. Gonna set one more card, and we're gonna pass it back to our Go format player. Definitely digging for an answer here. Now, they do have quite a few. We've seen them already use... Now, Mirror Force being gone, that was one of the big equalizers that they were looking for here. There's another one. That's going to be Dark Hole. That'll answer the board, but now, of course, Magellan will trigger. And that'll get Ticket. Now, they already have the Hoot Cake in hand, so they're going to take the Mewflea. That's going to set them up for a one-turn Tiramisu. So you better win the game right now. Suppose Cyberstein into Cybertwin into Megamorph. Actually, no, that wouldn't even work. They don't have enough life points. Monster Reborn, though, would be the play. And, I don't know. I think your only targets are DD Crow and Sangan. Now, you do have the ability to tribute this, though. Potentially a Mobius would be good. Jinzo, okay. Jinzo definitely good here. Well, in a way, it's not, actually. So Jinzo's good in the fact that you are going to get in this damage. You are establishing a threat. But the problem is, you know, I suppose maybe they don't know, but you know that the Mewflea is going to summon the Hoot Cake. Hoot Cake is going to give Gelato. Then you go into MX Saber Invoker and win the game from there. So here we go. Mewflea, I'm going to start us out right now. All right, Hoot Cake. See what they banish. Card D. Why not? It is definitely served its purpose. How to get the message Gelato? Gelato is going to grab the Chateau. There's our MX Saber. I believe this gets Chevalier. There you go. And just like that, you now have Tiramisu, and this is going to essentially +3 you. +4, actually, after Ticket goes off. Not going to use the Chateau, though. Just going to go ahead and use Tiramisu. Shuffle the Hoot Cake and the Chevalier back. Perhaps wants to keep everything in graveyard so that they can loop the Hoot Cake for next turn, I suspect is the reasoning here, as Chateau would shuffle everything back. Actually, no, if I remember correctly, it only shuffles back Madolche monsters, and it does. Going to summon the Chevalier from deck, and that was the intention, was they wanted to get the Chevalier back in deck to special summon, as it is, I believe, the biggest Madolche monster from the main deck, and that's going to be game, as Chevalier goes in for 22, Tiramisu for 27, and we are going to see a Game 3. Alright, so here we go. Game 3, top 4, the official Histlander Discord servers, a monthly tournament for the month of February. We are in a pivotal Game 3. We saw Pia take Game 1 with Salamangreat versus Earth Machine in the modern format. And then Meds for Feds struck right back with Madolche in the classic format. So now, of course, Meds for Feds having won, that allows the losing player to choose either the format or whether or not they would like to go first or second into this match. And then the winning player will get to choose whatever the losing player did not choose. So, for instance, if Pia decided to go first, the winning player would then get to choose the format, or if the losing player chose the format, the winning player would then choose if they wanted to go first or second. Now, we are going to see Meds for Feds lead off. Now, I'm not sure what format they picked. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to such information. But we'll, you know what, we'll take this journey together. It's okay. Taking their time to think about it, though. I assume, I'm going to guess Modern. I'm going to put my money on Modern. That they're trying to think of their line of how they're going to get to their plays here. Yeah, I did it. All right, Revolving Switch Yard is going to be the start. So, I suppose an interesting note, so now that we know that this is the Salamangreat versus Earth Machine, that does turn on Foxy from Graveyard. Going to discard the Night Express Knight, going to search the Super Express Bullet Train. And, yeah, apparently that was not what they wanted to do. They're going to pass it back to our Salamangreat player. And, poof, it's a very dire situation. We saw how hard this deck can pop off last time. It was very easily able to set up a massive amount of advantage. Of course, I suppose we will say that their hand last time was a bit above average. Circle, Gazelle, Foul, Raw. And we are going to take our time to think about it, perhaps calculating lethal. Foolish Burial will be the open. A lot of options here now then. Of course, Salamangreat really operates well out of almost any zone, excluding the banished zone. Cards just in general are very, very well designed. Gonna go for Spinny this time. We didn't see Spinny in game 1. We did see Gazelle in the opener game 1. That was card number 1, and, you know, you love to see it. Salamangreat, of course, being a deck that, you know, in Histlander, it's kind of the same deck since all of their cards are limited, but the Gazelle is going to get met this time with an Effect Veiler. But Spinny does still lie in the graveyard, so that is far from the end of the turn. Now, interestingly enough, I suppose with the opponent passing, that does turn off 1 or 2 cards that we saw from game 1. But in this case, they will have access to Mirage Stalio, Sunlight Wolf, plenty of options here, but I want to imagine Mirage Stalio would be your play here, so that way you can keep your Spinny. You'll see the Mathmech Edition come down. It's going to bump the Gazelle to 2,500, so they will be able to swing for a decent amount of damage here. It'll take them down to 35 with what we currently see. Ah, they're going to go for Update Jammer, so they're looking to end it all. Transcode Talker, so I actually misspoke. That card is not banned, so that is just going to be game here. Transcode Talker is going to special summon the Update Jammer. Yeah, and that is in fact lethal. So the Update Jammer is going to allow the Transcode Talker to attack twice. They can summon back the Update Jammer. And there you have it. So Pia is going to take it with 2 very convincing Salamangreat games. And that is going to move them into Grand Final. So congratulations. And a big... Also congratulations, of course, to Meds for Feds. A top 4 performance here. Very impressive for sure. Definitely showing the strength of the Earth Machine deck. The resilience it has at the very least, and of course the strength of Madolche deck. So I thank you guys for watching. Thank the Curry Bandits for having me on. This was Mambo. Definitely check out the description below for the Histlander Discord if you want to learn more about what we're doing here. And get in on the tournaments themselves. They last over a couple of days, a couple of weeks, so there's not a whole lot of time management you need to set aside. Games are also very fun. Everybody's really cool. And definitely like, comment, subscribe for some more content like this. And check out some of the other deck profiles if you are looking to get into the format. And I smooch you all. And you guys all have a good night. Goodbye.